All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Awesemo.com live before lock show, where we have 12 games, I think. I should have checked that before we went on the air. But we have a certain amount of games that we're going to discuss today. I'm Chris Spags, joined by the baseball savant himself, Mr. Jake Hari. How's it going, Jake?
Oh, it's going great. Almost 4th of July. Not my favorite holiday, but an excuse to get together. And we got a great slate. I'm going to wake up with a lot of commas in my DraftKings and FanDuel accounts, hopefully. Yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be a fun slate.
Are we just going to blow by you bashing America in the intro and saying you don't like the 4th of July?
I don't like fireworks that much. It's not my favorite thing. I like the communal aspect.
Got it. And you hide under your bed whenever the fireworks go off like a scared dog.
Well, yeah, duh. Who doesn't?
Of course. That makes sense. No, it's fair. It's a good reason to not like the 4th of July.
There you go.
But yeah, let's talk about baseball. Let's talk about stacks first, since we are our guy Awesemo. If you're a premium member of Awesemo.com, which obviously you should be, Awesemo did his recommendation today and his breakdown of the most likely stacks to succeed. So if you're a premium member, go check that out. There's a whole chart and everything along with his write-up. But Jake, what are you thinking in terms of stacks? Where are you going first?
Yeah. So as you were saying that, I was kind of reading through what Alex is saying, and I sort of agree with him without giving away the entire article. So some of my favorite stacks are, you've got like Houston and Colorado. I think those are going to be the two highest owned stacks of the night. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that those two would be the ones that people are going to target the most. I think San Francisco is going to be pretty highly owned too. I know that Alex recommends them as being a lower owned of the big ownership groups, but I think they're going to be pretty close with Houston and Colorado.
Right. Yeah, I think they're going to be. I think San Francisco is going to be the lowest owned of those three.
But still.
Right.
Yeah.
Still highly owned. And then I love Cincinnati. I like. Who else do we have? Oh, the Dodgers against Ivan Nova just really struggles with lefties. Can't strike him out. They're going to be able to put the ball in play. And like Muncy and Bellinger, that lineup's not out yet, so we'll have to check and I'll re-crunch. But those guys are going to be in a bunch of my lineups. And then Cleveland as well. I love the Cleveland bats against Duffy. So that's kind of where I'm at. I've got a bunch of other teams in like... did I mention Philadelphia against Cobb? I like that a lot.
Not yet. I think that's one that's interesting, and you guys talked about it on this morning's strategy video with Josh, of course. And you mentioned the Cobb thing and some potential Cobb ownership, and I see it. I think I agree with you guys. So I'd rather go with the Phillies instead of Cobb. Cobb just doesn't miss bats enough, and obviously the Phillies strike out. But if you're throwing the ball right into their bats, they're probably going to be able to hit it. So I do think that the Phillies are a bit interesting. Cleveland, one thing that worries me a little, and it jumped off a fair amount to me. Danny Duffy's been pretty good versus lefties, and I think that there's a pretty good case to be made to skip over the Brantleys and Yonder Alonsos of that lineup. His splits versus lefties, WHIP only .86. xFIP 2.8, whereas versus righties 1.46 WHIP, 4.54 xFIP. Also more hard contact versus righties, substantially more than lefties. So I don't know. I think to me, like, I do like the Cleveland stack, but I would skip over a couple guys there and try to make it work a little better.
Right.
Yeah. Jan Gomes, who I also love, is a good pivot off of Gaddis today.
Yeah, I love Gomes. I had to like manually take his ownership down, or my exposure down from him, because he was popping so high, like the highest owned player for a while there, and I had to manually get him down into like the 20s. So he just grades out exceptionally well, crushes lefties over the last year and a half or so, and I mean Duffy is just such a good matchup for him. It's great hitting weather, 95 degrees, wind blowing out to left, so I can just picture these righties just golfing the ball out and just sneaking it over the left field fence. I'm just picturing that in my head for Cleveland, and just all the dollars going to me. So I love Cleveland. And it won't be all. I mean, I just think they're going to be significantly lower owned than some of the chalkier stacks, and that's super attractive on a 12-game slate.
I mean, I don't love going back to Lindor after he's had 2 monster games in a row, and obviously a lot of people are going to be aware of that. We still only have projected us to be 9% owned. I feel like it might be a little higher than that, just because I feel like a guy has 2 monster games like that in a row. People do notice. But that said, still great matchup versus Duffy, and I'm with you there. Our boy Josh in the chat, who we'll give him his just due. He did pick a home run and actually a very good game last night from Scott Schebler. So kudos to Josh. Of course, that was all the skill that Scott Schebler had in his body that he used up last night. So he's out of the lineup tonight. But the Reds in general, how do you feel about the Reds? Actually, let's talk about this game. How do you feel about Anthony DeSclafani? A popular conversation point for us in this live stream, and I was vehemently against him last time. He ended up being pretty okay. Spoiler alert, I'm against him again tonight. How do you feel?
Right, so initially when I saw the ownership this morning, before I'd really looked into him at all, and I kind of did this on the slate, but I looked at some of his plate discipline stuff over the last couple games, and specifically that last one. I know you shouldn't just take a 1-game sample as everything, but it was encouraging to see him miss a lot of bats, and 12.5% swinging strike rate, near 40% chase rate, which is awesome, and he gets a team that strikes out a ton. I will say, if he's going to be anywhere close to what we have him projected at, which is I think still above 30, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I think, above 40 last I checked, but
so,
gone down a little.
So we have him as the highest projected pitcher on the slate in terms of ownership, not point projection. So that's a little bit concerning, especially when it's 80 in the 80s in PNC, and you've got Moncada and Avisail Garcia and Palka, who I like. So I have some DeSclafani. I'm way, way under that. But, I mean, I get the play, just not at anywhere near 40%.
Hold on. I want to address a criticism real fast from Bob McIntyre. I feel you guys, apostrophe S, suck. Been watching you guys for mouth, haven't won ONE shit. For one, it shocks me that the possibly illiterate person would not have won in the past month or the past mouth. But I would say there might be some flaws in your process. This isn't a pick show. This is talking about game theory, talking about a slate show. I don't know if you're not winning stuff, you're probably not using the information correctly, because we're not telling you what to do. We're kind of giving you the guidelines to guide yourself with. But really, if you're that illiterate, I don't think that's probably the reason you're not doing it. Words is kind of an important part of DFS. So just stick with it, Bob McIntyre. Maybe picked up a hook on phonics.
No, so here's the deal. So baseball, you may not win for a month straight, especially if you're playing limited lineups and you're not making the right contest selections. I get it. It's super frustrating when you're going through a losing streak in any sport. But it seems like baseball, it's longer, and then the hot streaks are very short and lucrative. And so, I don't know. I get the frustration, but I mean, if you're here watching the show every day, you're watching the live stream, you're listening. Maybe he's a premium member. If you have Osmo's articles and his interviews and stuff, you're going to become a better player. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It may just be a longer-term thing. So stick with it, Bob.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, especially if he's illiterate and can't spell the word mouth instead of mutt. Just come on, Bob. Clean it up. Clean up your process, and then we'll clean up ours. But yeah, so DeSclafani, I think actually the White Sox are an interesting stack tonight that are going to be lower owned. Obviously, they don't have the run potential of some of these other teams, but I think it's a second stack, or maybe you're getting the best pieces of some of these other stacks out there. I think that Moncada through basically all the guys who could hit righty, so a couple switch hitters up top. Obviously, Garcia has also been heating up a little bit, but also really good in the field. I watched a lot of that game yesterday, and he bailed out Shields so many times yesterday in a way that I was really happy for James Shields and obviously Garcia's budding love affair. But yeah, no, I think that the White Sox, I would actually, again, I'd rather go against DeSclafani, especially against this on this slate. 40% ownership, even if we're wrong and he's 20% owned, I don't want DeSclafani at that volume. There's too many guys.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I like Wheeler. I like. Let's see where I'm at. There's so many pitchers on his slate that I think are playable. All right, hold on. My computer's
People
moving.
bringing up one right now in the chat, which I feel like we're gonna have to talk about anyway. But Bassett, obviously, I think is gonna be pretty popular. It makes a lot of sense. Not not a great pitcher, at least in what he's shown so far. But how do you feel about Bassett tonight?
Yeah, I've got some Bassett. He was the one super cheap guy that I sort of understood his ownership. I think he's 6,300 and gets a good matchup against the Padres. Not a great strikeout matchup. There's no Renfroe, which is a little bit of a bump down to Bassett, but he's not a big strikeout guy anyways. So my argument was I could see a pretty clear path to like 15 or 16 points. And for 6,300, I think that you can handle that. And I mean, I think guys like Desclafani and Stratton and Bivens Dirks and guys that are cheaper than him, even more expensive than him, have like Richards. They have a lot more downside than Bassett. So that's sort of my argument for him. I've got some. I'm not going crazy with it. But just to get back to Desclafani, like why I'm not on him much is because I like Erman a ton. Wheeler, I even like Clayton Richard, Eflin, Yarbrough, all these guys I have exposure to, and I don't think Desclafani is going to make the cut.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, as a guy Greek Ink just mentioned, not on FanDuel for me, but Yarbrough, I think, too, is another cheap player who can get you what you need. I don't believe in the upside of the slate quite as much at pitcher, where I don't think there's anybody who's going to break it. Although I actually think Flaherty is a pretty sneaky play, but if you're trying to get me to pay $10,100 for Flaherty, it's a tough sales pitch there. But I do like him. I'm not crazy about Kershaw. I would like to see a full outing from him where he's worth the salary that he's being priced at. Greinke, not exactly lighting my world on fire either. So I'd rather just go with these middle tier guys. And is there a huge difference between German and Yarbrough tonight? I don't think so, to be honest. I know he's a better pitcher. He'll get more strikeouts, but he also gets rocked. He gets rocked every single time and gives up home runs every single time. So, I mean, I know you love him. I would rather just go whatever. I'll take Yarbrough. I'll take Bassett. I don't think there's anybody on the slate who I'm afraid of not having.
So I thought Erman would be like a chalkier option as the day has gone on, and he just are people just not going to play him? Because it's a talent thing with him. I just think he's so talented. He's got such good stuff that the weather doesn't really matter for me with him. He's either going to miss bats or he's going to get hit really hard. And for 8,500, I think he's got huge upside, also huge downside, but that's why you're playing GPPs. And I'll gladly go way, way over the field if he's going to be anywhere near where we have him right now, which is under 10%.
Josh says the Erman line has gone down dramatically since this morning. In favor of him, because I thought the Braves have actually gone up in terms of run total a little bit.
That's what he means. He means that there's some juice going to Atlanta.
Everybody agrees with me then. That's what it is, and not the baseball savant. But no, I think Erman's great. I think he and Lasagna are both pretty similar players. Where if they're missing bats and they're doing well, that's great. But then eventually they're going to give up a home run or two, and it's just not going to look as pretty at the end of the night. And I think that's how I feel about Herman in general.
Corsi in the chat, he's a really good DFS player. He's saying Erman is great when he misses bats, which might be a problem against Atlanta. And I mean, it might be. But if it's not, you're looking at an $8,500 pitcher that could potentially get double-digit Ks. So that's the appeal with him for me. And I've got a ton of him. He's my highest owned pitcher.
Okay. I'm going the other way. I think I might have one lineup with Erman out of 15 or so. So I'm not on that side. But hey, that's what this is all about. Just discourse. Whatever that Bob McIntyre. You don't even know how to spell discourse. You couldn't spell discourse, and we gave you 7 letters. Thoughts on Alex Cobb tonight? You guys talked about him a little bit more before. There is some logic going with him, given how much the Phillies strike out. But let's talk about it at more length. I guess. How do you feel about Alex Cobb?
Yeah, I mean, I get that he's $4,500, and this is a slate with a lot of great bats. But I mean, I don't think he's any good. And it's not like Philadelphia has a 3.8 run total. They're up over 5. And so that just makes me more want to stack Philadelphia at these expensive prices. as a leverage play against Cobb, who is certainly going to get some ownership. I've heard a couple other spots talking about him as being a possible GPP play. He's not going to be a secret if you think you're going to be sneaky with $4,500 Cobb. He's going to have double-digit ownership for sure, and I don't want any part of that. So I'll be going with Philadelphia bats. I'm not on Cobb.
Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of Cobb just because I do think, he's one of those players who we've discussed enough times, like, our guy McCod in the chat, the Paul Blackburn of the night, a guy who's like a shitty pitcher who might have a good day, just because Philadelphia strikes out a lot, and, but I mean, that lineup is scary still. Like, I think even the bottom of the order, he's not great versus righties. Like, I mean, Cobb's not great versus either hand, but he's worse versus righties, gets even less strikeouts, and I think, pretty much everybody in that stack or in that lineup can hit him. Even Zach Eflin could probably get a hit on him. If you give him 3 shots, I think Zach Eflin can get a hit on Alex Cobb too. It's not a great spot. So if you're playing him, it's because the salaries work, you love your lineup, and then Cobb makes that all come together. I could see that, but otherwise, I'd much rather have the Phillies than Cobb.
Yeah. I'm glad we're together on that.
All right, Josh dropped his home run pick in. So let's just do it now. Normally we try to do it at 3:30. We'll circle back. Now the home run picks are becoming a thing. Josh was right. Jake and I were right twice last week. We're heating up now with the weather, probably because the weather is so hot. Home runs are plentiful. But who's to say? Who's to say? So how do you feel about your pick tonight, Jake? Who do you have?
I never come prepared for this, so it's always just someone.
I always pick it on the fly too, so don't feel bad.
Let's see who I'm very exposed to on my crunch right now. Let's see. So Josh picked Jose Ramirez, is that correct?
He did pick Jose Ramirez, who's not the hottest Indian, but still on a pretty good hot streak.
All right, I won't pick Pinder because I just picked him and he donged, so I don't want to use up too much Pinder. I'll take Carlos Santana, just as we were talking about Alex Cobb. I think Santana gets him.
It's funny that you mentioned Pinder because I actually thought about going with him today too because I thought he looked pretty good. I think I'm going to stick with the Reds tonight just because they're in a good spot again. I want to go with the same guy again, but I feel like I've done that. It hasn't paid off. I want to go Scooter one more time, but I'm going to go Joey Votto. I mean, another lefty hitter going against Danny Duffy, who is going to have a tough day. Whatever.
Giolito.
Going against yeah. Yes, and I think that makes enough sense for me, so I'm going with it. There we go. And so let's put these on the sheet because Josh never updates it. Jake, if you want to look at the chat while I slowly update Excel.
Yeah, okay. I saw a question from Corsi, Bassett or Yarbrough. I think I'd go Yarbrough there. I think Yarbrough is a pretty solid pitcher. Lower team total, all that. The only problem with that is I think he's going to be pretty chalky, and I don't know if Bassett will be at low stakes. So it sort of depends, but I think that I think I would go Yarbrough there. It is close, though. Closer than what I even thought this morning.
I think Yarbrough is a safer play than Bassett, and I would presume going to be lower owned. So, yeah, I'd probably go Yarbrough as well. But I have a fair amount of both guys. The price works with them, so of course that means it's probably going to be completely wrong, and they're both going to be terrible.
Red's a trap. I disagree with that. I really do. I mean, so I was on Giolito his last start, and it worked out. He had like 17 or 18 DraftKings points. It was on an early slate, and he could not have been luckier. Like, looking at how he missed bats, he was getting ahead of guys. He couldn't get any chases or swinging strikes while getting ahead of guys, and he's supposed to have good stuff, and it was really concerning. So I think that people might think that Giolito's better than he is because he's had a couple good starts in a row, but still giving up a ton of stolen bases. I think 15 on the year. And Peraza leading off is a guy I love. $4,600. I think people will leave him out of the stack if they're not aware of how bad Giolito is at holding runners. And I like 1 through 6 a ton. So, I mean, yeah, if you don't want to play Casali, that's fine. But even Billy Hamilton for 3,400 in the 9 spot, if he gets on, he's stealing. So I love how the Reds I love the red stack.
Well, and to me too, the other thing that I think you could point to is Giolito having some success before a couple times is that in righty heavy lineups he's been doing better. His whip is substantially better versus righties, whereas like the lefties on Cincinnati are the ones who are banging, and they're in Cincinnati, so which is obviously a positive hitter ballpark. So I think that those factors alone, like I actually agree. I'm not crazy about a full red stack tonight, but I think I like the lefty stacks a fair amount. So, and that's why I'm picking one of them. Let's see. What other stacks do we feel like are going? All right, actually, thoughts on the White Sox stack? We talked about that already, but you feel like that's a hedge? For me, it's not a hedge stack. I mean, that's just a screw you DeSclafani stack.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, and technically it's like a hedge stack if DeSclafani is going to be one of the higher owned pitchers, but I think it's just a pretty good stack. Like I mentioned, so Moncada, Avisel Garcia, Palka are guys I all like against DeSclafani, and then I didn't even realize Davidson was down there in the 7 hole. He's going to be very, very low owned. And he's just got huge power, and he shouldn't be batting 7th. I don't know how he's been hitting lately, but he's too good of a hitter to be down there against DeSclafani and being behind Tim Anderson against a righty and Kevon Smith. So he's just going to be lower owned, and I like the White Sox stack.
I'm pretty sure he's just Kevin. He's just a white guy who spells Kevin weirdly.
Kevon or Kevin?
I think it's just Kevin.
I wanted like Kevon.
Just white trash. It's the way that you would say that's spelled. People asking about the daily game plan. The daily game plan is the email blast that we have, by the way, Luis Caliste. It's not an article that Osmo writes. It's a thing that we write up every day, which is a summation of all the things you need to know for a slate. You can sign up now. It's free. Or if you're a premium member, you get it too. But everybody who has an account on Osmo.com, premium or free, gets it every day in their inbox. So go sign up at Osmo.com now. Register an account, and you'll be getting it tomorrow, usually around 1 p.m. every day. It's a breakdown of the weather, all the stuff that Jake lovingly puts together every morning. So it's very helpful, I'm sure.
It's a team effort. I mean, I think it's a cool thing. Some other sites do it, but I think we're doing it a little bit different. And I don't know, we put time into it. So check out the email and don't just put it in your spam unless you just want to unsubscribe, which is fine, but you'll break our hearts.
And if you're not getting it, also double check your spam folder, because every email newsletter has a tough deliverability thing usually. So it's possible it's in your inbox and just didn't get there. But if for some reason you can't find it, email me, chris@osmo.com. We'll try to figure it out. But I'm pretty sure you'll be on the list if you are a member of anything. Let's see. How about the Dodgers tonight? Dodgers obviously went off yesterday to pretty low ownership. Their lineup's always coming in late. I think it just came through while we've been talking. How do you feel about them? I actually haven't updated them, so I don't have it in front of me.
Did their lineup come in? Oh, there we go. Oh, yes. They have Jock leading off. That is fantastic. All right, so I was hoping they would do that.
They got the lefties going heavy.
God, that's smart. That's sharp. Dave Roberts. It probably wasn't even Dave Roberts that came up with that lineup, but whoever did that is sharp. I mean, it's a pretty obvious move to put Jock up there, but he wasn't in the projected 1 hole, so I'm glad to see that. Nova just can't strike out lefties. They're going to put the ball in play, and they're crushing the ball right now. Average exit velocity's up for a lot of these guys. A lot of hard contact for Nova to lefties. He just can't handle lefties, and I don't know, like, what's not to like about these guys? They're not even that expensive either. No one above 4,800. Muncy has been just a stud. Jock, I think he's got one of the highest home run per at bat rates in the entire MLB. Grandal, $3,800 gets your catcher spot. I don't know. They're going to be way lower than Houston and Colorado, and they're not that far behind them for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think as Jake mentioned, the lefties versus Nova have been particularly bad. His xFIP versus lefties is 4.77 versus 3.91 versus righties. The whip, though, is really the big difference. Versus just righties, Nova would actually be one of the better pitchers on the slate. Only 1.1 walks and hits per innings pitched versus righties. Versus lefties, he's given up 1.45. Also pretty good hard contact. The Dodgers are hot. I mean, not that that's a thing that you look at, but they did just have a monster day yesterday, which won people lineups, but they were only 5% and under owned, at least on DraftKings. So, Peterson, Muncy, I think Bellinger, all look good to me. Grandal, as Jake mentioned, at catcher. Chris Taylor also down the order. I wouldn't forget about him. Very good hitter.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I haven't heard any talk really about the Dodgers. Like, they're just like a secondary stack for people, but I have a lot of main stack Dodgers, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Let's see. Is Kemp a chase? I would say I don't think it's a chase. I don't think anybody in that lineup is a chase at all. I think they all have fantastic WRC pluses. They're all, which would put them like on the higher end of the slate in any other lineup. So I don't think you're chasing anybody on that Dodgers lineup.
Yeah, I mean, it's unlikely that he gets you 28 or 40 points like he's done in his last 2 games. But exit velocity is up for him. It's righty-righty. I don't think he'll even be highly owned, just even with those 2 games in a row. So I love all the guys around him. So, yeah, I'll have some Kemp for sure. I think he's a perfectly fine play for under 4K.
Matthew Prodwell, I feel like, has asked about the Mets several times. How do you feel about the Mets going against Marco Estrada over in Toronto?
I like Nimmo, Cabrera, and Conforto. So that's probably where I'll get most of my Mets exposure, but they're more of a secondary play for me than anything. I think Estrada has been able to miss bats, and that's not a guy I love stacking against. So I think the Mets are fine if you love them. Like, no one's going to be on them, so they're a fine play just for ownership reasons, but not someone I'm like jamming in.
Okay. Our weather nana, Noah Rosen, is asking about the weather concerns today. Any sort of issues you see on the AccuWeather for the evening, Jake?
I don't. I haven't even seen a need to pull up AccuWeather. So unless someone else has a weather concern, they want me to look up a certain game, then I can absolutely do that. But if not, I don't see any reason to be pulling up the old AccuWeather radar.
They're saying Philadelphia, maybe? I feel like there was something with rain earlier today that I saw, but I didn't pay that close attention.
Well.
Didn't worry me that much earlier today, I guess.
I will check that out.
I'll check out Philadelphia now. Let's see.
Mark
what was that?
Someone asked if I had Mark Canha shares. I think he hits lefties okay. I don't know if I have much Canha, though. I really want my exposure. Oh, wait. No Pinder? Oh, he's in the 9 hole. Yikes.
You got moved down.
That's so stupid. Wow. So, yeah, I got to change my Pinder exposure, but I'll have some Canha for sure. I have some Oakland stacks, but they're like a maybe sneak into the top 10 stacks for me, not a main stack.
Okay.
Do you see anything on the Philadelphia weather?
Nothing crazy. It's still green on every site that I see. So, I do see rain as being listed, but it says 25%. So I don't know. I don't think that's anything to worry about.
Okay.
It's green. It's go. That's all. I'm not thinking that. I'm not gonna start worrying about green games. Can't have that life.
Right.
Ohtani back in the lineup tonight? What?
Really?
Wasn't
he
hurt? Somebody said it in chat.
Oh, he is?
I don't know.
Oh, my.
Didn't he have? Was he gonna have like Tommy John surgery?
No, I think they held off. So to see if you can heal it instead of getting Tommy John right away. Sometimes I'm not gonna act like I'm some sort of doctor, but I know that some guys have waited and they've had like successful recoveries without the surgery.
Interesting. Oh, also, since we didn't do home runs at the usual 3:30 slot, we'll run through them one more time. Josh had Jose Ramirez. I had Joey Votto, and Jake, you had
Carlos Santana. David Fletcher leading off. $3,200 third baseman against Wade LeBlanc. I don't think that's terrible either. Man, I'm really bummed about Pinder, man.
He's still playing. He's in the 9 hole.
But that's such a big difference. That's another at bat there, and
Gleyber Torres seems to make it work.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't be impressed.
he did for a very small sample, but this is a what do you call it? What do they call it on the Swolecast?
I have no idea.
I don't remember what they say. This is a forward-thinking show. That's what it is. Forward-thinking show.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, sure. I get it's not great, but it doesn't mean like his numbers were still good enough where I would still like him if I liked him tonight, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'll still have some Pinder, but like he was going to be one of my highest owned one-offs just at that price. And on FanDuel too, 2,500. That's tough to beat for a guy that mashes lefties. And now that kind of is going to have to be tempered a little bit.
It's fair. 25% flash flood in Philly just came up on Easy Money VIP's phone.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know what to say to that. Like, unless something dramatically changes in the next 15 minutes in Philadelphia, I don't think I can see myself taking the game off. If you don't want to go with Eflin, that's fine. I think there are other options. I like Bieber, and he's even cheaper than him. Or you can go up to Greinke or Flaherty even. I agree with you that he's a pretty good pitcher. So, I mean, there are other options if you don't want to go to Eflin.
I'm not crazy about Bieber tonight. We haven't talked about him, but that total's been going up all day. I only know that because I've had to update it now like 4 or 5 times. And like I usually like Bieber, but his price plus the total plus the matchup make me kind of not feel crazy about Bieber tonight. I don't know. Give me your Bieber thoughts.
Yeah. All right. So he's going up against Kansas City, who is striking out a lot more. Limited sample size, but especially against righties, they're above league average over the last month. And then Bieber just looks good to me, missing bats, getting swinging strikes, getting chases, all the stuff that I look for. The bad part is the weather, and Moustakas and Duda and Salvador Perez scare me to an extent, but we don't have him being very highly owned, and this Royals lineup does not have a lot of power. They could get some help by the weather, but one of the lowest ISOs in the league against righties this year, WRC plus all that. They just haven't been striking out for the year, but that's changed in the last month or so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess my thing is only looking at the overall season, and they're still under league average for the overall season at 19.2%. But yeah, I mean, if it is regressing to the mean, which it should, given how terrible they are in every other category, which I'm with you on that. I guess it makes sense. It does make sense that would regress a little more, and then if anything, maybe that means more Ks for Bieber because they're overdue. They're overdrawn on their strikeout balance.
Yeah. And yeah, just to reiterate, I mean, I'm just looking at like my final crunch right here for DraftKings, and like Gomes, Lindor, and Ramirez are all hitting their ownership caps for me. So just wanted to reiterate how much I love the Indians.
Any thoughts on Zach Wheeler versus Toronto? I feel like you mentioned him as one of your guys.
Yeah, so he's someone, I think he's my 3rd most owned pitcher, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. No one's really talking about him. He's an underdog on the road. Blue Jays do have some strikeouts, and the guys that I'm worried about are the lefties, but he strikes out lefties at like a 5% higher clip than righties this year. He's got good stuff. He's another one that's like, he posted a 20% swinging strike rate in his last start, which is absurd. You rarely see that, and that catches my attention right away. So I'm just taking a chance on him that he's maybe figured something out, and no one's going to be on him, so I like that.
Yeah, I didn't play him, but I could see where you're getting it. I mean, his swinging strike rate is still, in general, one of the better ones on the slate. And, yeah, and I mean, and he does have a pretty good amount of soft contact, which I feel like is a good indicator of him not getting rocked. So all the things would seem to benefit it. Not a player I went to tonight, but he's certainly better than some of the other bullshit guys that we're talking ourselves into, I would say. Would you play Ian Kinsler in the 7th hole or Chad Pinder in the 9th hole on DK?
Ooh. That's close. I mean, once you're getting down past the top 5 or 6, I think they're mostly the same for me. And I love Pinder's matchup against Clayton Richards, so I'd probably go Pinder there. But that's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's Pinder for me too. I actually like Pinder a fair amount tonight, 9-hole or not. But I agree. You know, he's a little less valuable than Jake initially thought he was. Now that he's down the order. Any bargain bin DK players you like? I love Geyer at 2,900, but I'm having trouble finding some others.
Fletcher, I mentioned, is leading off against Wade LeBlanc. Sandoval against Senzatella. That's, 3,800. Sandoval's been better this year. And you're in Coors, like, he's not going to go unowned. But let's see, who else? Pinder would have been one, but Palka for 3,500. I don't know if that's bargain bin enough, or what this person is looking for. But someone asked if Ryan Rua was for real. I don't think he's for real at all. 2,700 against Keuchel. It's 100 degrees there, so yeah, he could do some damage. But I'm not betting on Rua tonight.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling Texas at all today. I don't, not that I think Keuchel is the best pitcher or anything like that, but yeah, Texas. Texas strikes out a lot. I'm actually wondering if maybe Keuchel is worth playing a little more than I considered. Like, I think you kind of the temptation would be to look away from anybody playing in Texas in that heat, but there's a lot of strikeouts on that Ranger side, which Keuchel could use, given that he's not been striking guys out that well.
Right, but if this was like 2015 Keuchel and he was this price, I would be much more likely to use him. But he's just not striking guys out as much over the last couple of years, and I think enough of these Rangers are going to be able to put the ball in play where I'm scared off of him, especially Beltre and Andrews. No Profar in the lineup is a little disappointing as well, but Beltre and Andrews I'm really scared of for Keuchel. So that's probably enough to keep me off, especially when I like so many other guys in that range.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see, Bieber or Wheeler on DK?
Bieber or Wheeler? Bieber.
Yeah, it's still probably Bieber for me. I'm not crazy about Bieber, but I think his potential is a little higher than Wheeler if he does kind of have that. Don't be that guy caught without Geyer. Geyer is not the most important player on the slate. I'm playing Geyer, but I don't think Geyer is like some great shakes.
Yeah, he's fine. The problem I have with Geyer, and I don't even know if this is true, I keep forgetting to check on this, if he's getting pulled for pinch hitters, or every time they bring in a righty after he gets to face the lefty twice, he gets pulled. At least last year that would happen all the time, and that's always super tilting, but people would still be on him because he was cheap. So I don't know if that's still true, but it is in my mind, and I don't like Geyer that much for that reason.
I don't mind Geyer, but I think any sort of hyperbole towards Geyer is a bit silly. I think Geyer is a great part of that stack if you're skipping, like I mentioned before, if you're skipping Brantley and you're skipping Alonso, but you're getting everybody else from Lindor to Gomes. I think that's a perfectly fine play. But Geyer is alone. Who cares about Brandon Geyer? Story or Lindor as a DK GPP play?
Story or Lindor? Oh, Lindor. Yeah, that's Lindor. Lindor's going to be lower owned. And I have him pretty much neck and neck for points. So, yeah, that one's easy.
Yeah, I would definitely be even more favor of Lindor. Stratton's actually been pretty competent versus righties, and obviously Trevor Story is a little worse versus righties, I think, than he is lefties. So I would definitely go Lindor. I don't even think it's close. Let's see. McCod asking about Andrew Heaney. What are your thoughts on him tonight?
Yeah, he's not one I ended up on much. For whatever reason, I just didn't end up on Heaney. I don't know. I don't want to say he's fine because I'm not playing him. So if I thought he was fine, I would be playing him. But I think it was Haniger and Cruz and Healy and Segura that scared me off of Heaney. So I didn't end up on much Heaney, if any at all.
Yeah, I don't have any Heaney either. I didn't think there was enough really. It wasn't enough in favor of going with him, and not enough where I was intrigued to stack against him either. But his numbers versus righties are much worse, like substantially worse than his numbers versus lefties. And there's a lot of righty power on that Mariners lineup, so not my ideal spot to go to Heaney. Again, especially on a slate this big, I don't see the point in playing guys you don't like. So I'd rather play the guys that I do, and Heaney's not one of them. You guys talked about Eflin a little this morning, but I don't think we've really touched on him today. How do you feel about Eflin for Aaron Borchardt?
Yeah, Eflin's impressive to me, and then like I think Eflin's a pretty good pitcher. And wait, is this game starting in a delay? Yeah, it is. Anyways, so the Philadelphia game is starting in a delay, but I'm gonna check on that quick after I'm done with this point. So against Baltimore, they just have so much strikeout upside, and now Tim Beckham leading off. He's a 30% K guy against righties. You got Trumbo in there, Mancini, Scope, Cisco, pitcher spot. It just seems like a spot where Eflin can rack up 7 or 8 Ks, and he's been okay at going deep as well. So I just like Eflin as a pitcher, and I love the matchup for a righty against Baltimore.
I think Eflin's in a good spot. I think that there are some signifiers that would worry me if they were a more competent team in terms of like Eflin versus lefties is a much worse play. And but I think overall the Orioles kind of match up well for him. So I don't have an issue with it other than, I guess, whatever weather concerns we have. But his price, though, is a little high for me. Like I feel like him in the 8K range, I'm good with. Him in the high 9s, I'm not crazy about. Same thing with like Flaherty. Like I like them both, but you know, I don't know if I like him at that price.
Right.
Antoine Murphy, always coming through with some interesting viewpoints. That's me being positive. He's saying Ivan Nova's going to stymie the Dodgers today. Ivan Nova with a pretty big total against him and a pretty tough lineup on the other side. But want to go through our Ivan Nova thoughts one more time?
He is pretty bad against lefties. Can't strike them out. The Dodgers are hitting the ball extremely hard right now, as you've seen the last couple games. And I just love the Dodgers. So I can't turn around and say, I could turn around and say I have some Nova, but I don't. So I love the Dodgers. I very much dislike Nova. So that's my take there.
I agree. I also think that team total puts them in a spot where they're not part of that five projected run and above group. So I think they're an opportunity to get them at a little lower ownership. If you want to make a case for them, there's a lot of strikeouts to be had there, but I don't know if Nova's the one to get them. So
yeah. So if Nova was 5K, then sure, you get a discount off of Bassett and Richard and Duffy and all these other guys, but he's 7K. You're not even getting a discount for what I think is almost no upside.
That's the reason to play Nova. It's teams who put up big run totals a previous game. The follow-up game is usually let down. That's a gambling, I think, old wives' tale. It's not actually like a truism to hold to heart.
Let's see. Any Domingo Herman love? Yes, I love him. I think he's going to be low-owned. I think he's incredibly talented, and I think he's got a lot of upside, even against the Braves, the bottom of that lineup specifically.
Shark asking, who would be your dark horse pitcher / team stack?
Team stack? Dark horse? Yeah. I think everyone's going to be a quote-unquote dark horse besides the Rockies and the Astros. I won't include the Giants in that. So besides those 3 teams, I think the Phillies are an awesome play, but they have a 5-run total. It's not like they're some dark horse. The Dodgers I love. We've talked about them at length. Yeah, man. Anyone outside of those 3 teams is going to be super different. So I don't think you need to get that contrarian if you're going outside of them.
Yeah, just in terms of one lineup that I have, which I feel like would fit that criteria, would be the White Sox. But the Dodgers are a better team, so I'd say they're a more likely candidate. But like Jake said, yeah, there's so many people. Like, this is a very high total day. Like, I feel like this is probably one of the highest total slates that I've seen so far this year. So definitely there's a lot of places to go, and I don't think you need to get too cute with it sometimes, including with the Ivan Novas of the world. Thoughts on Diaz, lefty masher versus Kershaw?
I think that's getting a little too cute. Kershaw looked good to me. I watched that entire start against the Cubs. He looked pretty good to me. Diaz does hit lefties well, but you're not getting a huge discount on him either. He's 3,300, and I like catcher position today, so I won't be having a lot of Diaz, if any at all. I think if it was an average lefty, then sure, but Kershaw is still well above average, even if he's not the same Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, and I also think just from a statistical standpoint, like Yan Gomes grades out better than Diaz does versus lefties, and we're not calling him a lefty masher. So I think Yan Gomes, to me, I'd rather have Yan Gomes than Diaz pretty much across the board tonight.
I love Yan Gomes. Absolutely love him.
Mariners are UFC 3 KO Kings dark horse stack. They're always lower owned than they should be. Yeah, look, I think that there's every West Coast team is lower owned than they should be because the lineups come out super late. So, you're not wrong there. I don't necessarily see it for the Mariners being a key stack, but I don't mind it. I would probably be more inclined to mini stack them personally.
Sure, I love Haniger and Cruz, so there's your mini stack right there. You could throw in Segura or Healy, depending on which position you need as well.
Yep, I agree. Estrada or Richards for DK GPP?
Estrada or Richards? Man, those are two guys I haven't talked much about at all today. I think I would... I think they're both pretty low upside options, but I would probably go Richards.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd probably go Richards too. I don't have any Estrada. I think I have at least one Richards. So, yeah, I guess that means I'm a Richards guy. Yarbrough on DK. I think we've talked about him enough, but he looks fine. I think we've kind of settled in that he's pretty similar to Bassett. He's okay. We're not crazy about either of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like Yarbrough, I think, a little bit more than you, but I'm not going crazy with my Yarbrough exposure. The Marlins are a team I do respect a little bit against lefties, specifically with Castro, Anderson, Realmuto. They're top three, so I don't think it's just going to be some cakewalk just because it's the Marlins in Miami.
Let's see, Wheeler or DeSclafani on DK. That would be Wheeler for me.
Wheeler, yeah. We're projecting very heavy ownership on DeSclafani.
Yeah, I mean, okay, that's not fair. There will probably come a day, some point in the season, where I'll pick DeSclafani. That day is not today. That day is not the previous slate that we'd had him on. I don't know when it will be, but it's going to be when he's like $4,000 and everybody sees him get rocked for 5 straight starts. That's what I'm... let's see. Any Bassett love? I feel like we've talked so much about Bassett, but one more Bassett love discussion. What's the case for Bassett? What's the case against Bassett, Jake?
The case for Bassett is he's been okay. He doesn't miss a lot of bats. He's a low upside option, but for 6,300, I think he's got a decent chance at 15 or 16 points. And that's the case for Bassett. Not expecting a slate-breaking performance, but I just think he's got enough upside in him to pay off, at least for 6,300. What would be your favorite pitchers for a GPP on FanDuel? Erman, I believe he's 6,500. That's just too cheap. He should never be 6,500. Bieber, I like. It's kind of the guys that I wrote up in the Spotlight pitchers this morning. Who's the third one I wrote up? I'm blanking now. I can't find him.
Some dude.
Wheeler.
Favorite Miami stacks. That's a very esoteric request.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Castro, Anderson, Realmuto. It's super easy. I like them all.
I would be more inclined to go the Yarbrough side than that. But, we got an ownership update. Yeah, premium members. There's an ownership update that just came through right now. If you want to check it out, I will also be refreshing it. Let's see. DeSclafani's got to come down. This can't we can't be.
No, he went up. DeSclafani went up.
No.
Yep. He went up like 2 or 3%.
Oh, come on. I find that very dubious.
No, that's good for us. I mean, and this is for mid stakes, right? We project that for mid stakes. So, like, let's say you're playing the $50. If there's a $50 single entry or whatever, this is kind of the ownership we're projecting in that kind of tournament. It's gonna be lower in the $1 mini max.
Ryan Yarbrough rising up the ranks then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Yarbrough and Bassett, we currently are projected to be very similar ownership, both under 20%, both above 10. DeSclafani, the highest owned pitcher and player projected by far right now. Just got here. Did you guys do dong picks yet? Oh, Brandon T's going with Jan Gomes. I agree with that pick. We did do them. Yeah, I went with who the fuck did I go with? I went with Joey Votto. Josh went with Jose Ramirez. Jake went with
Carlos Santana. I love the Gomes pick, Brandon T. Absolutely love it.
I was actually pretty close to going Gomes too, but I don't know. I just wanted to stick with the Reds once we started talking about it. Could end up being Gomes. Gomes I think is a very good play. Probably my favorite catcher today.
Hey girls, Fernando says. If you're looking for girls or women, I don't think this is your chat.
We have a few. We have to I feel like we have a couple moms who come in here and ask us questions sometimes.
Right.
I don't know if it's...
In general, though.
Sure.
Just ratio-wise, I don't think this is where you're gonna look. You may want to veer to other chats.
How do you feel about Justin Upton tonight?
Yeah, I mean, Upton against the lefty, he's hitting a little bit better lately, if I recall. He's someone that I haven't played as much this year as I did last year. I played him all the time last year. And normally against a lefty, it would just be a lock and load at that price, but for whatever reason, I didn't end up with a ton of Upton. It's probably because I didn't end up with a lot of Angels stacks, because I respect LeBlanc.
Yeah, I mean, I generally haven't stacked the Angels too much in general lately either. I feel like every time I try to do it, they just kind of underperform by a fair amount. So I think that I'm not crazy about it. That said, I get why you want to. I like Wade LeBlanc enough. I actually thought about playing him. It's a pretty low team total. And, I think the Angels don't strike out enough for it to be worth it, but they're not great getting on base, not great creating runs. I don't know. Not a player I'm targeting, but I get why you'd want to go there. Aggressive response by Fernando Gomes. Depending on how many drinks Jake might pass for a chick, I don't know. You got to at least put a wig on, Jake.
Hey, if that means that I'm pretty, then thank you. I mean, I'll be an ugly girl too. Like, whatever. Although I do have a little bit of a beard going right now. I don't think that I can pass for a woman right now.
Yeah, probably not. Are you fading the Philly game now that we know this stuff? I'm not changing anything. I still have a couple lineups and a couple of Zach Eflins. I'm riding up.
I'm not fading the Philly game. Like, it is what it is right now. I don't have enough exposure to that game where I'm like if this was Coors and everyone, and I was on Coors very heavily, then I would consider just completely going with zero and saving my mental health. But I think it's just going to be lower owned, and Eflin's going to be lower owned. The Santana, the Hoskins, all those guys are going to be lower owned, so I don't mind it.
Yeah, I don't mind it either, and I feel like I'm tired of missing out on these games when they're enormous output games when they everybody gets off of them. It's happened to me too many times in the last few weeks, so I'm willing to ride out with my couple of Phillies lineups and hope for the best. Let's see, Stassi or Gaddis, which would you go with? I mean, I think it's pretty clearly Gaddis, but the ownership might make sense to go to Stassi. If you had to choose, what would you choose, Jake?
Yeah, I was gonna say I have, I think more Stassi than Gaddis, and it's probably a price thing. And I did something weird with my crunch. I'm trying to get almost no full stacks of Houston and Colorado and just fill them in with one-offs, just something I'm experimenting with when I expect heavy chalk. And so I ended up with a bunch of Stassi in mini stacks, and it's just a good GPP play, because if Stassi were to hit a home run and Gaddis were to not have a ton of points, then you're going to be different even having the chalk Houston stack. You know what I'm saying? So that's the appeal to Stassi.
Yeah, I prefer Stassi versus lefties, so I think I would still stick with Gaddis. Just the strikeout rate's pretty big. It's 30% strikeout rate, almost 31% for Stassi versus 20% for Gaddis. So I'd rather have a little more hard contact, a little less strikeouts. That said, it's pretty close, and Stassi does have similar power. So, like Jake said, I think it's a good pivot move. But if you're picking a single entry, I would go Gaddis for sure. Have we figured out who's Goose, Maverick, and Iceman yet? I think Jake clearly would have to be Iceman. I think that he's got the Val Kilmer thing going.
I don't know what any of this means. This is before my time.
You never watched Top Gun? I feel like even if that's before your time,
no. I don't. No, I've never watched it. Who's that? Brad Pitt?
No, oh boy. Now you're just trolling, I think. Yeah. Oh, Josh is officially Goose. Good for you. Yeah.
Goose.
Okay. You should watch it. It is an iconic film. It's Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer is his arch nemesis, and they're in a flight school, and there's a whole homoerotic vibe.
Yeah, no, I knew it was Tom Cruise. I just wanted to make the troll,
Okay.
the millennial troll.
You never know. You never know with you kids these days. Like, though, Josh and I are also millennials. Technically, it's a pretty broad grouping. Well, this game is delayed start. I mean, I think we already knew that. Let's see. Anything else? Will we get tennis coverage? I don't know. Probably.
Tentatively, maybe, is what I've heard talking to some people behind the scenes. We'll see.
Sure, it'll come at some point.
Josh is a millennial? I guess Josh isn't that much older than me.
Josh and I are the same age.
I think I'm almost the next one, whatever the next grouping is, whatever they want to call us.
Gen Y, Gen Z.
Is
I
it-
forget what it is.
Is it Gen Z? Yeah,
They're
whatever.
tweens, maybe.
I'm like right on the edge.
Millennials, I think, are the cutoff is 83. Actually, might even be 82. I don't have it in front of me, but it's like more than you would think. I think it's
Oh, really?
technically people like 35 right now. Yeah, it's a broad group, but it makes sense if you think about it. Just different kind of millennials.
Nice.
Kemp looked great for tonight. Sure. The guy who's had 2 monster games in a row looks great. I appreciate your bold take, Manny's book bag. The Rays bats. How do you feel about the Rays bats tonight? That's a question we haven't had.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going there much. In fact, I know I'm not going there much because I capped their exposures at a very low number. Bowers is the one guy that I think sticks out to me. So someone asked about Bowers earlier, but yeah, I like Bowers for 4K. I think he's a pretty good hitter against a righty here. No one's going to be on him. Pretty good one-off for me.
Yeah, so I mean, Richards is much worse versus righties. So I actually do have I think I have like one mini stack. I don't know if I kept it or not, but I did have one mini stack at one point of the righties in the Rays lineup, just because it's a pretty noticeable jump off. He's 1.18 WHIP versus 1.8 versus righties, lefties versus righties rather. So I think the righties in the Tampa Bay side, if you want to go with a mini stack, I could see going with, but that total's pretty low. It didn't really scream out to me as a place I needed to go a bunch.
Yeah.
Can I get away with a German Wheeler build in on DK? Seems too easy. I didn't go there, so yeah, I think you can.
That's one of my favorite builds, actually. The double mid-tier. I just think those guys have a lot more upside than like a Bassett or Desclafani or like a lot of aggregate upside compared to going with Greinke with Bassett or a Greinke with Richard or someone like that. So
I have a couple of Bassett and Yarboroughs going out there, so I went with even the low garbage tier for a couple.
With Coors, Bassett Yarbrough with Coors.
I don't remember which one I had with that. I feel like it was with Houston and maybe the Yankees. I went super pricey because I feel like it's just everybody keeps trying to go with that, and every night it's just these assholes, the Wee and Chens of the world who are in the winning lineup, and I'd rather try to farm for those guys instead.
Nimmo or Peterson DK. I think I would go with Jock now that I see that he's leading off. But those are 2 guys I like a lot tonight in most nights against righties.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clearly Jock for me as well. Paul Blackburn of the night, I think there's only one choice for that. That's Alex Cobb. Not a guy I like a lot, but if people are predicting him out there, there's a logic to it. The realistic one would be Bassett.
My Paul Blackburn of the night? Ooh. I think it would be Bivens Dirks, actually. My Paul Blackburn of the night.
Even going against Houston, you have some Pippins Dirks?
I don't have any Bivens Dirks.
Oh, okay.
But he could absolutely get blasted, and that's probably the more likely outcome, but I think that Bivens Dirks could be okay. He does a good job getting chases, and that leads to a lot of low-quality contact, which in this weather, that's what you need. You don't necessarily need the strikeouts. You need low-quality contact to avoid the stack going off against you. I think Bivens Dirks could do that, possibly.
That's fair. Watch Noah being number 1 pitcher. Look, he's done it before. I wouldn't on a night where I don't think it was a DeSclafani night, but it was a night where I didn't expect him to do it. So not impossible, but boy, I fucking hope not. I really don't want Nova to do well again. It's hard picking against him and him doing well.
If Nova's the #1 pitcher tonight, I'll have $0 left in my accounts.
You'll know. I think you're still fine. I had my best lineup actually last night had Suter in it, and he had like 5 points. I think I still had like 160 something, 170 something. Geyer Gomes looks like a cheat code on DK, super cheap mini. If you're thinking that, probably 20% of other people are thinking that.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, Gomes will not be unowned. He's 3,200, but damn Jake Aller. But Geyer is a nice punt. He's got to do the damage against the lefty in his first couple at bats probably. So that's the sweat when you run the risk of playing a guy like that. But I love Gomes. We've talked about him like 20 times, and
it's been a big Gomes day.
So if he's 0 for 5, just I'm blaming it on the chat. You guys jinxed him. He's the nut play, but variance might get in my way.
Marwin Gonzalez. We didn't talk about Marwin Gonzalez at all today, but I actually do like Marwin Gonzalez in that lineup. I think you guys talked about him on the stream this morning, but Marwin's a pretty nice little underplayed part of that Houston lineup. I
agree. Against Bivens Dirks, he's not going to be someone that a lot of people go to in that stack. People will go to Reddick. They want Gurriel, and he is first base and outfield eligible. So just by default, batting 8th, he's not going to be as highly owned as those guys, and could be a way to differentiate if you're going with a Houston stack.
Actually, here's an issue. So, Viraj, we didn't talk about Newcomb at all today versus the Yankees, but how do you feel about Newcomb going against the Yankees? Because I actually have a few lineups with him. He just worked price-wise, and I don't know. I know he's right next to Vermont relatively price-wise, so you're probably not going there. But what do you think?
Right, that was the problem. Is there were a bunch of guys below him that I like better than him that aren't as scary of spots. Newcomb does have good stuff. He can strike out righties, so I understand the play. His game is locked already, though, so it's not like it matters. But
yeah. Just we didn't talk about him at all. I feel like we should have, because I actually did play, I think, like 2 or 3 lineups with him and felt like, yeah, I feel like this might be like a sharp play. He might get rocked, but I feel like given the strikeouts on the Yankee side, a couple of dangerous bats not in the lineup. Who knows?
Hey, Shark. Congrats, man. Yeah, I'm glad we could help you win some quarters this morning. I'm in first place. Yeah. Well, hopefully that stands. I got a feeling it's gonna stand for you, Steve. What else we got in here? We're at lock, right?
Yeah, we got nothing good. That's probably enough for today. All right, thank you guys for watching. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure to do that now so you get alerts whenever we go live. You'll see whenever Jake puts his night shift podcast out, whenever Josh does the quick hits, whenever they do the morning videos. So go, please subscribe now, like the videos, all of that. If you want an email newsletter that sums up all the content we have on the site and sort of all the data points you need to know for a slate, sign up for the awesemo.com membership. If free or premium, you will get the email newsletter, the daily game plan daily game plan in your mailbox every single day around 1 o'clock Eastern. It gives you the weather. It gives you all the top scoring stacks, projected top scoring stacks, projected bottom scoring stacks. So go sign up now. And we'll be back in tomorrow. Jake, any parting words?
Good luck, guys. These Dodgers bats for the late night hammer against Nova. That's going to be the nuts once again.
Or the Nova perfect game that ruins all of our nights. Who knows?
Could
Who knows?
Could be.
It's DFS. But thanks, guys. Good luck. We'll see you tomorrow.